and enjoy the day.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Do you know what drove me nuts a few years ago is when Congress was getting into the debate about the baseball strike. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
So what the heck have they got to do with it, right?
Well, exactly.
Oh, my gosh. Can you imagine? And not imagine. It was real. It was a real thing. Mm-hmm. And now you have, football is kind of always in the crosshairs of things. This year it was because of the kneeling, and in previous years it was because of the concussions. And there's always been one thing or another that this sport that America really loves, so much so that the biggest TV viewing of all the granddaddy of it all is the Super Bowl, which of course is football. Well, can you imagine if there was an amendment to the Constitution that banned it? That abolished football? That is what Bud Watts imagined. He wrote the book called Football Abolished, the 136th Amendment. He wants to talk to us about the public's attitude toward football now. And his credentials indicate he's a humorist, and I can see why. Bud Watts, good morning, Bud. How are you?
Good, and how are you?
I'm good. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from my home. In Barrington Hills.
Where? Where's that?
Barrington Hills.
Where's Barrington Hills?
Northwest of Chicago.
Oh, okay. How's the weather? Cold today, right?
It's really kind of beautiful today. The sun is shining, and
that's nice.
I would imagine it's around 40 degrees.
So were you a football player as a young person?
Not a organized one. I started out when I was in third grade. I saw a news flash between features of a double feature of football games. They used to do that in the theaters, news of the day, so to speak, and they'd show some of the college. And that was the first I'd ever seen football. And I was in third grade, and I was fascinated.
Do you know?
So I started playing in fourth grade when we'd take the whole. A bunch of us guys would go after class and choose up sides and play in an old vacant lot near a cemetery near the school. Every day.
See, and I love when traditions start out at the roots level like that. That is what makes things great. I mean, that's how baseball started. That's how basketball started. That's how football started. Do you think part of the problem is that it got too big and too commercialized and too polished looking?
Yeah. I think a lot of the fun isn't there, because when we chose up sides, like I said, it was for fun. We weren't getting paid. We just loved to do it. We looked forward to it every day in the fall after school.
Yeah.
I think the players who are making a lot of money, though, now playing football, the majority of them, you see them when they're interviewed in that, they're still playing for the love of the game. They love it. And I think that's what propels it. Is once you play it, you're done for. You love it.
Did you write this book as a commentary?
Sort of. I think it's mostly for. I was, inspired to make it. All these rumors, like you mentioned earlier, about maybe the government getting involved and abolishing it. Bottom line. It's oh my God, that'd be horrible.
Yeah.
And so I started making notes and mulling it over in my mind over a period of time.
Do you know?
And I took an approach. You said earlier, I'm interested in humor. I wanted to make people laugh a lot.
I want to hear.
It's fiction. It's a satire.
I want to hear your ideas and without spoiling the book. I look at it this way. If I had a favorite baker because I loved his Kaiser rolls, right?
Uh-huh.
And all of a sudden I found out that, he doesn't support America. I mean, would I still get his Kaiser rolls? I might still get his Kaiser rolls. The product is still good, right?
Yeah.
and I don't know if that's the same thing with football or not. If you don't agree with the football player's political viewpoint, well, they're still giving you the same show.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I had an art teacher who I one time objected to a guy's work that he was showing us in our history class because the guy is a communist. He was. And he says, hey, forget that. Just look at the work, and I've kind of kept that in my mind. I would find it real hard to accept Hitler's artwork.
Yes,
but,
no, I know what you mean, yeah.
But basically, yes, I think you're right. I think regardless of what you think of some of the guys that are, whatever they're doing in the game, as long as it isn't disturbing the game or breaking the law, you got to forget that and just appreciate their abilities as players. And that's what I try to do.
And the safety is a growing concern now, especially among the parents with their children playing in the Pee Wee leagues on up. I mean, how do you keep the children from not wanting to play football in high school with the possibility of getting hurt and then on to college and then on to the pros?
Yeah, I don't think you do, really. I think if the kid loves playing that much, you're not going to stop him. They're going to get a ball, and they're going to go find a vacant lot like I did when I was a kid, and they're going to choose up sides and play. Mm-hmm. And I think parents, they can forbid their kid from doing it, of course, but they have to kind of make a judgment there, a philosophical judgment on, well, he loves the sport so much, I'll let him play.
And you're absolutely right, because that would be the same thing like they did in Prohibition. Even though they ruled alcohol illegal, there was still alcohol coming in. Yeah,
no, I think that's a good correlation for sure. And I know my parents, they never, even dreamt of the problems of getting hurt or anything. They just let me play every day, and so did the other kids' parents. And I think part of the problem today is it's so organized at football. They start the kids when? Third grade or something like that now?
Yes.
And, when you're organized that way, they're teaching these kids really how to be efficient at the game, how to knock them on their can and how to bing, bing, bang. And you probably even get some of that philosophy, okay, don't just tackle him, hurt him, get him out of the game. And we never thought that way.
Yeah,
hey,
that's
you want to
true. Yeah, that's true.
You want to make him, you want to run for a touchdown and things like that. It wasn't like kill the quarterback.
So without asking you to give away any secrets, not just to the book, but into your skill as a humorist, how do you take something so serious and spin it in such a way that we're going to laugh?
Well, I hope I kept it as everything as a possibility, not as a totally like. Well, here's a football nut writing a story. I kept both sides going. The side that the person who fears injury, and the person who is who the game it's his beloved.
Uh-huh.
And I kept it in that nature, and I let the humor come in because there's a lot of humor around football. I did try to play in high school, and so I was under a coach for my senior year, and the coaches are wonderful. They're roughnecks, and they use great language. And then it's like I went in the Marine Corps after high school, and I saw a great correlation between the drill instructors and football coaches. Their language, they put curse words in the middle of curse words.
Some people are talking about advances in technology where the players are robots, and then the players who normally would play those positions are just on the sideline, doing the moves like with the video game joysticks and controllers. Do you really believe that could happen?
It could. It could very well happen. I hope it never does, because I think the point that I'm making about that is that you're taking the joy away from the kids who play the sport. In other words, it's something the fans love the game. They love watching it. They love the competition. They want their team to win. But the people who are playing it, they're getting a joy that a lot of people don't realize it's there. And I know it because I felt it, and I saw a lot of the kids I played with felt it, because that's the only reason they were out there every day after school playing it.
Mm-hmm. And the rivalry that happens between the schools really is pretty healthy, I think.
Yeah. Did you say
healthy?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think there's a lot of healthy things about it. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Besides the physical conditioning, the character-building aspects of your teammates, I think there's really a love that grows between teammates because they're all in it. Depending on the guy on your right to block for you, just like a soldier would in combat, depending on who's on his right. Lessons for life in football, more than any other sport, I think. You have to have such interaction. There's 11 guys on each side, so that's a lot of people, and the plans have to be just right to make it work. And so it's a fascinating experience, and I think it's tough to think about it being taken away from these young kids. And men now, and professional.
So I guess if government was going to regulate a sport, it would not seem unreasonable if they were regulating, let's say, Little League or something that has to do with children. But I think the NFL, does the government regulate that at all? I'm trying to think. I think they regulate, I know this is weird, but fantasy football, I think there is some
I think so.
regulation
The betting.
on that, right?
Well, maybe the betting and the economics, what I don't understand it. Monopolies, things like that. If one guy owned 5 teams that were competing against each other, I guess that would be breaking some of the rules of corporate law or something. But I think it's relatively free, though, of government interference in rules and regulations as far as
right.
Anything pertaining to the...
Right. Well, you know what? What was I watching the other day? I think it might have been about North Korea, where they regulate everything. I mean, even the poetry has to be pro-North Korea or something like that. And so I'm wondering if your observation or your speculation, and even though it's humorous, is just almost like a red flag being waved. Like, wait a minute, they could do this, and they could regulate the music you listen to, or what songs we play on the radio, that kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. That was running through my mind all the time I was writing it. And also, when you think about it, how it would expand, from football to hockey to boxing to maybe wrestling. I'm trying to think of some other...
Sure.
Like, basketball. Now, you watch pro basketball, and there's a lot of contact in that, and there are guys...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So are those sports regulated in Russia?
I don't know. I think just about everything is regulated in Russia. It seems like Putin's running everything.
Yeah, but we came home with the medals this Olympic season, right?
Yeah.
And there seems to be a lot of respect among the players within a team, because even though there are 11 guys on the field, you've got like 20 more sitting on the bench just waiting for their time to play. And to me, a good coach would allow every one of those players to play some part of the game.
Well, yeah. I think that's what they do in the Pee-wee leagues. They do each player, each little guy has to get in there for a little bit. But in the pros, whatever it takes to win. If they play the 11 guys the whole game, if it's winning for them, that's what they do. But they can't do that because the game is so rough and tough. They have to have a breather now. It's in the days of yore, that was true. There were players that went both ways, defense and offense, and they played the whole game.
Mm-hmm. Gosh.
And they wore leather helmets, hardly any pad.
Oh, I
Really?
remember those
Really?
stories. Yeah.
The book is called Football Abolished, the 136th Amendment. I have the cover of the book on the podcast that we're doing right now. I got that off of Amazon. How's the book doing?
It's not doing well yet because I have not had any publicity.
Okay.
It's a self-published book, and so that means that I have to seek out ways. I put it in local bookstores.
It's a huge book. It's like 600 pages, right?
Yeah, it'll keep you busy for 3 or 4 days.
And what is your take about the teams, some of them wanting to move to England? I know the Jaguars right here in Florida, they were tossing that around that they were going to move over to England to play football.
Well, that's fine as long as it doesn't take it away from us, and I don't think it would. I haven't always been surprised why other countries haven't adapted to the game. Is it because of our culture is a little more, roughneck?
Yeah.
Or something like that, like the Cowboys of the West and all that sort of thing. But I think England, they do play games there. They play, I think, 1 or 2 games to start the season over there. I think they play an exhibition game. Mm-hmm. There, and then they play one for real over there.
And then you have the medical people involved and for the helmet safety and the pads and the uniforms and things like that. So do you think we've come a long way in that form of protection?
Well, I think so. Yeah, there's they got to be looking into it every day. But I think the one thing they should do is much more work in the area of the helmet. They have to get some good scientists involved there and see what they can do. My own mind that was going through my head was the cars now that collapse when they have a collision.
Uh-huh.
Front end collapses to prevent some of the concussion that you'd get.
Right, yeah.
Kind of a soft landing, so to speak.
Wouldn't that be something with the helmets? That would be pretty amazing.
But to abolish it completely, that would be an interesting thing. I wonder if the government has ever... I guess we abolished duels, didn't we?
I think so.
I don't know if that was a sport or not.
Back to play another day was a good duel.
When you were growing up, you have a wonderful, wonderful history. I mean, gosh, and you had such a tight family unit, not just with your mom and dad, but with the relatives, and you just really enjoyed laughter. So was that part of the reason that you were formulating this book on football?
Sure. Yeah, I always think of the things that happened around the house, and my dad was a fan too, not as much as I was, but he took me to some of the high school games in Peoria, Illinois. That's where I'm from, and that really, got me all the more interested in it. And but around the house, there was always something happening, like things that are just goofy mistakes. Like, like my dad was working under the kitchen sink one day on a pipe that was leaking, and he had the pipe off, and he drained it or something. He had a big pan of water under there, and he handed it to my mom, who was outside the cabinet there. And he says, "Get rid of this." Well, she picked up the pan and she poured it back in the sink.
Oh, that's too funny. Oh, my gosh.
You also had an Uncle Rudge, and you say the amazing lies. Were they lies or were they just stretching the truth?
Yeah, the big, tall tales. I can't think of one right now, but just absurd things that you knew. You went along with and you listened to them and nodded your head and everything, knowing full well it was.
Oh my gosh!
I love this. I love your life would make a book.
I went to your Amazon page, and you have other books that you've written also, and you're an illustrator also, aren't you?
Yeah. I did the illustration for the book.
The Football Abolished book has illustrations in it?
Well, no, it's got I did the cover, front and back and then I did the layout of the type inside, the large type to introduce the book. And let's see, what else did I do in here? There's one little illustration later on, too, I did. But in the other two, I illustrated the covers again, as well as some of the interior stuff.
I think your book would help if the NFL professionals would read it, if the college coaches would read it, because this sport is not going away. We should leave politics out of it, and also that people do love it. But when you have things that are happening on the sidelines, like the politicalness of it, the people just don't want to support it, and I think we have got to get support back in all the best way possible.
Yeah, I think so. I think the game kind of blows through all of that. I mean, when you think about it, the fans may be affected at first, by something, and gradually it grows old, and they just ignore it, and it becomes ineffective, and it goes away. Because what's the reason for it? There's no reason for it in sports. Sports is a thing that's brought us together. My God.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to reading it. I went to the description of the book, and you, Buddy Whore, you're no angel. The description, I wanted to read the description because whether it's about this book or not, it sounds, I just love it. It says, Bud Watts, the author of And You, Buddy Whore, You're No Angel, is too old to be writing books, yet he persists. He believes a big part of being alive is laughing, second only to having a beautiful woman to love, which he does. His wife of 54 years, Bev. That's awesome.
Congratulations for being married 54 years.
Thank you.
And now it's 4 more years since then, right?
Yeah.
58. Congratulations again. That's wonderful.
Wow. So
I love this.
I mean, it must just be a lot of fun for you, and hopefully you get some feedback. Let's send some people to the internet so they will buy your book. I did find it on Amazon. This one is called Football Abolished, but there are other books by Bud Watts online also. You can see for yourself what's on there. Just real quickly, Bud, do you have a website besides Amazon that we can direct people to?
Well, I have an email. That's all I have at this point.
And what is that?
That is Virgil Watts. Virgil is my real name.
Okay.
Virgil Watts at Comcast.net.
Okay, excellent. And we will put this up as a podcast also before 2 o'clock today sometime. Thank you, Bud. That was fun.
Well, it was fun talking to you. Thank you very much.
All right, we'll be right back.
Fox News Radio, I'm Chris Foster. We could see more flooding in the middle of the country over the next few days.
Storms, flooding, and tornadoes killed 3 people in Kentucky, 1 in Arkansas, another in Michigan.
I seen the house just going away.
This